Welcome to Tech Simplified, and my name is Sly Gittins, and today I'm continuing the Woman in Tech series. We got someone who made the change from like industries and energy and oil, and she made it into tech. So she's going to share her story. I got the amazing, the one and only Kate Arndt. Her background is an industrial and manufacturing engineer, entrepreneur, sales executive, devoted learner, obsessed with innovation. What else can I say? But Kate, can you just please let our audience know a little bit more about yourself, how you got started, and maybe even share, if you feel inclined to, your educational background?
Sure. Sly, I love your energy. You're just making me so happy to be here. Thank you. Yes, I come from an engineering educational background, like you said, industrial and manufacturing engineering. And I went from there to start working at ExxonMobil right out of college. It was a decision I made at the time because for different motivations, maybe at that age, than I've grown into at this current moment. I was at Exxon for about 6 years. And yeah, I had various sales roles. I love people. I like math. I love engineering. That was an opportunity that allowed me to bridge those two interests. But like I said, over the years, whether it was, life experiences that added a little bit of perspective, or maybe sparked some interest in different industries and different career paths. All of that kind of built up, and my overall goals and what I wanted out of a career kind of evolved. So eventually I decided that I wanted to change industries. I kind of went 180 at least to when it comes to working for really major, big, massive corporation to a startup. I work at a company now called Vanti Analytics, which is about 25 people, maybe 30 now, actually, which has been a really, really cool experience. Basically, real quick in that transition, I was just looking for another growth opportunity. I've done about 6 years of sales for ExxonMobil, had a lot of different types of roles there, but I wanted a position that would help me actually have or feel that I have a bigger impact.
And before we go on to the next question, let's dive a little bit deeper. What was going through your mind with the transition? I know you said you just want to do something a little bit different. Were you nervous making the switch from your last job into here? And can you go through that? And the reason why I asked that question is, sometimes when I run into the people either in the comments or at a conference, or if I'm talking to them, they reach out to me, they're like, Sly, I'm in a different industry. I want to get into tech, but where do I start? Like, how did you get that start? Like, how did you start? Like, was it just a decision one day? Like, can you go through that a little bit more? Because I know you would help a lot of women and men, solve that question on that transition.
So that is an amazing question. It was one that I was struggling with during my job hunting experience as well. Whether it was getting advice from other people, sometimes I would hear like, you have to go to grad school in order to, switch industries. That's something that I heard often. But I guess, and I think grad school is great. I think that's an amazing path. I think that if you have the time or resources or interest, that is an amazing place to start. But I don't necessarily think that's the only way. Lucky for me, I found a company that was a good, I'd say, blend of my skills and my experience in my industry. Even though I was selling lubricant, I was still in industrial manufacturing settings. And my current company that I work for, Vanti, is AI for manufacturing. So I was able to kind of use that background, at least on the industry experience level, to help me pivot into this now AI technical sales position that I'm in. But I'd also just say, yeah, it's a little intimidating. Sometimes, maybe on paper, you might not make the most sense to a recruiter, but not really allowing any type of rejection to get in your way. If you're passionate about something, I say, go all in. If one person doesn't see your potential based on, maybe previous credentials that might not fit perfectly their job application, then, keep looking and build a network, and just don't give up on whatever it is that you're passionate about if a couple people say no, because somebody will say yes.
That's great. I think you ended on a mic drop type of ending, right? That tenacity, that grit, is gonna take you a long way, right? Making those switches. I remember switching from data center engineering, and then switching over to cybersecurity. Yeah, there's some parallels, right? But it's a different language. We had to learn that. So for me, I went from being the go-to on that area, like for VMware virtualization, and I took a role, doing like cybersecurity, RSA, multi-factor authentication, threat hunting. I'm like, man, I don't know how to do any of this stuff, right? But I was able to bridge my knowledge from understanding with the data center and the things that I'm securing, and I'm just learning another element of it. So even though it was something different, might have been not change industry, but I did change discipline, and it took a while. But I think something you said before is, if you're in healthcare and you're doing IT, or if you're in healthcare and you're doing something in the role of like sales, or even just like your job, like a healthcare professional, you can go to a tech company and work in a healthcare vertical. Because one thing about me is I don't know HIPAA. I have to go learn HIPAA. I have to learn. I don't know how it is to work within a nursing unit. What do you actually need? What resource do you need? Like, that information is hard to learn on your own. It takes schooling and those areas. The tech stuff you can learn on your own. So I think one thing you said right there is like that transferable skills, or that niche skill set that is hard to replace. Like if I had to learn manufacturing, I don't know how it worked to work in a manufacturing company. I never worked there. I read articles on it, but that's different than actually being there. So I think that's another gem that you dropped. And it's just using that previous knowledge to help you for your next role, because these companies need to sell into these key verticals and they want subject matter experts. Like even my role is a channel role, if channel engineering, distribution, right? I work with resellers. Most people don't even know what that even is, but that was my background. So they hired me in to do that, and they taught me the Microsoft stuff on top of it. So similar thing that I'm doing now. So that was pretty cool. So one other thing I like to talk about on this show, right, to really help is knowing what you know now, Kate, because you're awesome, your background is phenomenal. What would you tell younger Kate, right? That Kate that's in college, maybe you're a sophomore, you're a junior, graduation is almost there, So what would you say? Like, how would you prepare? What advice would you give him? Would you done anything different?
Would I have done anything different? Actually, no. I love where I am right now. I feel very lucky and blessed to be in the position that I'm in. I think I'm pretty spiritual, so I think everything happens for a reason. And I can see that now in hindsight, But I guess what then I would say to my younger self would be to not take everything too seriously. Like, if you make the wrong decision, you can make a new one. If you don't know what you want and you want to try something out, try it. It's, about perspective and grit. As long as you're working hard and you're trying things out, you're going to learn and grow. And, maybe you'll take the wrong step. Maybe you won't have access to an opportunity at a certain time. But at the end of the day, I think if you're working hard, you're going to end up where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you said something like, I'm very similar. Like the stuff that I went through, or the obstacles that I overcame, the experiences that I had made me who I am today. So for me to change something, to change who I am today, which I don't think I'd be able to give you the same insights, because experiences give you insight, whether they're good insights or bad insight, is just data, and you can move from it. So I realized for me is that, like you said, like these things are not shortcomings. They're just learning experiences. And what I would have told myself is just record them a little bit more detailed. What did I learn from that event? Why was that impactful? What could I have done differently, or who could I have talked to differently, right? One thing I would also probably have done is just get more mentors, right? Leverage other people experiences. And when you're young, right in college, especially when you're in college, a lot of people like ourselves who in the industry want to pass that baton back and help you. and see it in.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to reach out. Sometimes I was nervous. Should I reach out to Kate? She's pretty well established. She's never going to answer me. And then I realized at one point I just sent you a message. Either you're responding or not. And that was the best things I started to do as I got older. And then I think the last thing I would tell myself is just stay focused, stay focused. And this is, I think, something I read from Simon Sinek is the infinite game. There is no winners and loser in this. It's just a journey. So you're on a journey. So I stopped looking like, well, Kate is doing this, so I need to do this. No, I don't do that anymore. What do I need, Sylvester, need to be successful this year? All right, good. Next year, how do I take it to the next level? What is that level? Define that. What is the long-term goal? And then after I make those goals, then I'm happy, because the way I look at life is I'm taking my last breath. I think I told you, I'm not caring. Yeah, I made $100,000, right? That'd be great, right? But that ain't what the game for me is. I want to be a fantastic and phenomenal dad. I want to levitate my wife every single day of love and happiness to make sure she knows she's the one and only person. Those are the two things I want to be. I want to be a great person, and of course I'm going to make, I'm very determined, and I like to set goals. So making money is going to be a part of that, but I won't sacrifice those three things for that. Some people will. And that's my life. Someone else might find that to be a boring life, man, but I don't care. It's my journey. It's the journey of my family, right? And then you make pivots. And the only thing I probably would say that in this recommend, and take this as a grain of salt, is just think about where you want to go, right? But don't use that as a definitive place, right? I thought I was going to be a network engineer and a senior network engineer. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm actually not that good of a network engineer anymore. And I don't want to be that good of an engineer. And I'm glad that I left, because I'd have been miserable in my life if I had to be a Cisco data center engineer. When I was in the data center, I hated it. I liked the people a little bit more than I liked the engineering part of it. And I'm glad that I changed, but I'm glad I was able to trust my gut and pivot. So some people, I feel like they don't pivot. And at least from my experiences, when I did make a pivot and I had a good reason for doing it, it always made me feel better of doing it. It wasn't giving up. It was just finding a new way to solve a potential problem. So,
Yes.
so again, I think you said you said a lot of great gems. I just wanted to add on to it. And I think you might have shared this already, but what's your passion, Kate?
So I am so excited to share that, actually. This is part of what I'm passionate about, to be honest. I know that you mentioned your audience might be in the early career phase, maybe, mid-career, but something I'm super passionate about is women in STEM, and also just overall, more broadly speaking, with passion around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Part of the reason I am so passionate about these things is actually my experiences going through engineering, in terms of, from when my dad first told me I should be an engineer. My initial response was, well, I don't like motorcycles, like that's like for boys. And I reflected back on that, to your point earlier, life's about reflecting, why are we the way we are? Why do we make the choices that we do? And I look back at that and I'm like, I was really good at math. I was really good at science. I was building model rockets when I was a kid. So why did I think that engineering was for boys? And, I guess I was lucky, very lucky, to have my dad encourage me to be one, in spite of that preconceived notion that I had. And I went ahead and went to college for engineering. And it wasn't until I was in engineering that I fully appreciated the blessing that it was that my father encouraged me to be one, because only maybe 11% of parents will encourage their kids to go into engineering. But that's actually boys. Only 1% of parents will encourage their daughters to go into engineering, which I wanted to make sure that my stats were correct today, because this was a statistic I had learned back when I was in school, and I thought for sure it had to have improved. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like a lot has changed. The numbers of engineering, women in engineering is increasing, at least from an educational standpoint. We still have a lot of gaps when it comes to other underrepresented groups. And you might be wondering, well, why am I so passionate about women and underrepresented groups in STEM and their involvement in STEM? And that's because what I learned is the doors and opportunities that open for you when you have a STEM degree provide you access to elevate your life. You have so many more choices. You have opportunities to make significant money. You have like tons of experiences to learn and grow and build society and be part of building the world. And so I just think it's such an amazing opportunity that should be open to everybody, and is something that I learned in college, and it's become more and more evident the older I get. When I was in energy, now I'm in AI. It's everywhere. So I spend a lot of my free time outside of my day job trying my best to encourage women and minorities or underrepresented groups to go into STEM, whether it's in a mentorship capacity, recruiting, or various organizations that I volunteer for. Just like basically the other half of who I am, outside of like trying my best to be the best woman in tech that I can be and continuously grow and learn in a more technical way as well.
Beautiful. That's definitely beautiful. Now, I commend you for doing that, because not only are you doing it, you live in it. So not only you live in it, you're sharing it. And I think that's the beauty. That's something similar why I started this channel to talk about the topics I did. I didn't see enough representation that people who look like me. But then I would, go and look. Fortunate for me, when I worked at my last job, there were senior engineers that looked like me. So I'm like, and it was males, females. And I'm like, man, like, how did I get here? And they would share the stories. And then I'm like, man, I wish I knew about this before, man, because I've been building computers and fixing them, playing with them, downloading games, removing viruses, calling my friend, tech support, network engine, all that stuff I did for fun from 8 years old, until now. I still do it. Like, I just fully automated my whole house on paternity leave now. Like, only thing I gotta go get is the blinds. I got the doors. I could call, like, right now, if I say, I'm not going to say because it's going to trigger it, and it will show me like all my doors, the cameras, everything. And then I got it anyway. Whole security and everything was all like, I love this stuff since I was younger. But some reason I didn't connect going to college with IT. So I went to college for English and I think African American history in the beginning, and those two things. And then I ended up switching to business because I'm like, man, I'm going to help my family. I want to make a little bit more money because I like to look at the end. I'm like, well, if I become an English teacher, it's going to take me a long time to make $100,000. So I'm like, how can I make this the fastest? I looked up like top paying, and it's all tech jobs. I'm like, oh, snap. I didn't know they could do this. So I ended up taking a business class and taking IT. And then it's been the best thing I ever did, right? But again, having that ability to go and educate people coming in. So I even go to my school, like on last Thursday, I went to the University of Buffalo, and I'm to talk to my, I'm alumni, to talk to some of the current students, like, hey, these are the things that I did. These are things I think you could work on. Here's some books. Again, passing that baton, looking it into the next generation. I love that you're doing it. And the reason why I'm even here is I had my daughter. I started thinking differently. I wish I would have thought this before. Cause I know, like, this has been going on for a while, right? Women haven't been in there, and I wanted to be an ally. I know that, women don't need any help. The same for this. This is just to share dynamic women like yourself, your stories, so then you can expand your reach to get more people in. And I'm going to encourage my daughter. Like, I already got her engineering books, her first engineering books. I got her cybersecurity books. We read about it all the time. And I'm not going to force her to do it, but she will have the skills if she wants to do it. And she can decide whatever she wants, because even if she just knows how to do it, she ever want to pivot, she won't be afraid because she already did it already. Right. So just aligning with those different opportunities now and doing my best to do my part and be a part of the change that we want to see in the world. Right. So, I commend you for doing that, because like I tell anyone who come on this podcast, I do this out of my own time, own funds. I ain't getting paid for it. And a little bit I do get paid from YouTube. I'm going to put it back in, probably into a fund to help some other girls somewhere else or something, So this is this love, right? When you do things out of love, you can have a bigger impact. So I'm glad, again, you really touched me with that. And I'm really happy that you're doing it. And I'm excited to keep working with you because I might need your help me get this even further than it is today. So,
Well, I look forward to it. I'm so glad you're doing this. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for your allyship and all of the amazing women that you're talking with. I had some time over the past couple of weeks to kind of catch up on some of those interviews. And, it's very inspiring to hear other people's stories. And I think, what you're providing for women right now and girls like looking into maybe getting into STEM is understanding that there are opportunities out there and that it's okay. Like a theme I heard that was pretty common and I can relate to is that it's okay to not necessarily know exactly what your path is going to be, but to also, be okay, like what you said with the pivoting. And to your point about women not necessarily like needing help, you're right. I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to asking for help, but the allyship and support is so critical to help make changes that we want to see in the workplace. And that's the ultimate goal. So, I love what you're doing. I feel really inspired by you. Would love to continue to help in any way I possibly can. And I think it's amazing how you say like you were a little late to the game. I'm like, no, your daughter's young. You're amazing. You've realized this, and so few parents do. So she's very lucky to have that encouragement. And to your point about too, like the toys, the books, anything, to help her understand the options of a STEM degree or like how her interests might relate to a STEM education in the long run might be great. I was thinking about that today, actually, with like Legos and Hot Wheels versus like baby dolls. So stuff like that it makes a big impact in this space for sure.
Yeah, and I learned she likes building. She builds blocks, and it's kind of something I always did when I was younger, from Legos, regular blocks, to anything she would build. So yesterday we had daughter and daddy's day, and I took her to this Buffalo Science Museum. They had this fantastic exhibit, Antarctica dinosaurs. She loved every single bit of it. We went through it. We went through the science part. We went through the space part. And then right before we leave, they had another room, and it had, again, these blocks that you can build. She spent like 10, 20 minutes just building the different blocks and playing with the different ones. So like, again, this exposure her to that, environment, because I know when I was growing up, my family took me to this museum and I got to find different things I wanted to do and have fun. You just get to have fun and learning. Like in there, they even had like health. What happened if you eat too many cheeseburgers or they're fast food? Like, what's the chance of you getting these things? So she's seeing them already. And then they even had like an earthquake box where you could build up the tower. So she would build it up, then we hit the button and it would take it down. She'd be like, let me redo it. Then she'll start putting things on the bottom, putting more sand around it. It didn't fall the time. So you're just seeing her brain just keep moving, and she don't like to lose. So she keep going back and back. Right. It's just fun. We had some fun. I had all day to do it. Again, like those are the things I'm trying to proactively get her involved in so she can start using that, so, and not showing any differences. Now I have my son and her, because she might be the engineering guy, he might not, so it don't matter, it's just depending on what their interest is and what you get them into early. So great, man, so this is something I like to do. And again, I know with my stories, maybe I can help, inspire someone else, so on that same vein, one thing I like to do is passing that baton is sometimes you need to pass some books, maybe pass some podcasts that helped you along your way. Because sometimes I realize our messaging might not be the right messaging, but if they can hear something or read something, it might help them spark some interest. So what are some of your favorite books that stuck out to you, or podcasts?
Sure. Yeah. So I think you might have mentioned in one of your previous interviews, but like you, I'm very much into self-help books. My all-time favorite book that I've read a couple times is called The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. And essentially it's about your own personal growth and discipline, and has some spiritual and religious aspects in there as well. Written by a psychiatrist. And I just think it's a really, really good read. Gives you some perspective and maybe some motivation to work really hard and continuously try to grow and evolve. It's kind of just been In a funny way, my Bible, ever since I read it, it's helped me kind of make my goals, to your point, and be reflective, and have more power over my choices and my goals and how I get there. Another one that I'll just mention, just because I talked a little bit about diversity and inclusion, is called The Blind Spot. It's a book actually written by, I think they were Harvard researchers, and they were basically trying to understand how we all biases. And something I learned in college, again, it's helped foster and help educate me in my journey and this passion of mine. So it's like essentially just pointing out that good people can have biases. And I think it's a really good starting point to help people who might, not necessarily appreciate some of those things, and how to adjust and how to help other people, how to be allies. Because that's something that took me until college to understand. So if people can start to learn and evolve in that way, I think it's going to help perpetuate the change in society over time is the goal, I think.
That's great. And I'm actually, the reason why I looked down for a second is I went to go write down the road less travel, because I don't think I actually read that book yet. So I'm going to read that. And I also just finished reading this book called It's the Only Woman in the Room. It's by Hattie Lamar. This was the lady that was taking place. This was during the Nazi World War II time. And she talked about, she started off in acting, but she wanted to do more than that. And then the men that she would have would try to control her and strip her of the intelligence that she had and confine her in a box, and she would never let it happen. And she even had like patents like for torpedoes, because I guess in the beginning of that war, the American torpedoes was inferior, and she gave them a blueprint for that plan, and they didn't want to do it, because she was a woman, right? Not because it was good, right? So that's on her merits alone. And it was a really insightful book. I got to learn her story, and I also got to say, you know what? Let's do some reflection. Am I making my wife feel that way? I know I'm not, but maybe I am. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm overbearing. Am I stripping her, right? I know I'm not. But again, it makes you think, like, all right, are you doing this in boardrooms, right? You speaking over, then you got the right answer, and you're not maybe not necessarily doing. Are you not not even helping? That's giving them, a lady the platform to speak her voice, or are we talking over, right? So again, it's a good way for me to be a better ally, to see different, stories, and how, and this, I think also my aspirations to be in the leadership is, how do you leave and have a diversity in thought, right? Someone who comes out of plan and be okay with that. And I think that's essential. It was a fantastic book. And I got it like yesterday, and I already done listened to it. I just couldn't put it down. It was really good. So now I'm just going into, and I learned this because on my LinkedIn profile, each day for all of March, I'm sharing a new story. So that was one of the ladies I ran that I read through a little bit. I thought it was cool. Then one of Chelsea, one of my other ladies that was on the podcast, sent me the book, and then I read the book, and it's fantastic. So thanks for sharing your two books. The Road Less Travel is going to be added to my playlist right now. So that'll be my book after I finish reading The Infinite Book by Simon Sinek, which is another good book.
That's a good one.
But before I let you go, how can the audience contact you, Kate?
I guess LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to contact me. Feel free, message me. But LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to get in touch.
Great. And I'll make sure to have her LinkedIn profile in the show notes. If you listen to this on podcasts, whatever platform you're on, it'd be in the show notes there. On YouTube, it'd be in the details. And before we go, if you're loving the content that I'm doing, make sure you smash that subscribe button, the like button, and I'm going to challenge you. We're going to challenge you to share this episode with one friend, and whoever does it, I'm going to have something special for you. So go out there and do that. And I want to say a big thank you to Kate. I'm so happy that you shared your time with my audience. Your story is phenomenal. And the great thing about it, it's still being written, and it's going to be even better. So eventually we're going to have to do a part 2 to kind of see what changed and evolved, because I see nothing but great things ahead of you. Again, big fan of yours, and thank you again for coming on and sharing your story with my audience.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for the time, and very grateful for your allyship and everything that you're doing. You're wonderful, and I love your show. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Sweet, thank you. And until next time, Sly Gittens and Kate are out. Peace.